Hey guys, welcome back to Nikke. So obviously when we're looking at general campaign teams and stuff like that, we have Scarlet and Haran who are just obviously the top tier at the moment. So what I want to do was I wanted to make a video about units not to sleep on. Basically units, I just want to highlight a few and their effective points and where they can be used so that if you have them in your box, you may not have been trying them and maybe they can help you guys progress, because obviously Scarlet and Haran is a hard combo for everyone to pull. So I just wanted to give you guys as many ideas as possible. So let's jump into the Wikipedia and have a look. So the first one I just want to touch on is going to be Privity, because we all get her free to play. Now, I don't think anyone underrates Privity. I think everyone rates her pretty high. She's a fantastic unit. And she's just normally in a lot of teams, you bring her as the supportive burst 3 where you have two other main damage dealing burst 3s. And she's there just basically for this skill 1 where she does the attack up, reloading speed faster and ammunition capacity down. That's what her main use is. However, you can use her as one of your main DPS if you need an AoE. The thing with Haran and Scarlet is they both have really strong AoE damage, which is good for clearing those annoying adds and just the little units. Now, this is about half the damage of the others, but it's still not too bad. It's still good for clearing really weak enemies, so it's not a bad burst skill if you have no other AoEs. Plus, it does have that stun for 3 seconds, which isn't too bad. So that's Privy. I don't think she's underrated. I think everyone that has her and doesn't have any amazing units is already using her, so she's a good option. I just want to highlight that use of her as a damage dealer. Even though she's not optimal, if you don't have anything else, it's not too bad. So let's go along and find into the next one. So I think a lot of people rate Guillotine highly from the start of the game. I just never liked Guillotine that much. Personally, she's still okay. I think she's still pretty solid. You know, she's got the minigun, pretty good all-round, just basic unit, but I just feel like she just doesn't have anything that makes her shine. So I'm not going to go through Guillotine in this one, but she is okay anyway. Another one, and I feel like if people have Guillotine, they're using her, so that's that one. Maiden. Maiden is another one that I wanted to go through because she's got an interesting kit. Now, if crit damage worked like 90% of other games, or it had a big impact, I think she'd be an absolute beast. 10 seconds of 152% crit damage is nuts, but in this game, it's pretty average, so we'll have to wait and see. She does have that taunt. Now, the taunt, obviously, as an attacker, you think it's going to be squishy. I used her a fair bit on my first account, and I didn't find it too horrible, provided you got some sort of damage mitigation on your team. It's not going to be the end of the world with that taunt, depending on timing. Obviously, some things can just kill you, so there is that, but honestly, it's not too bad. The critical damage would be amazing, but it sucks at the moment. But she does have a self-attack buff, which this is where the taunt comes into play, because when she's attacked 20 times, she does get the attack buff, and 26% ain't too bad at max when you consider that it is for 20 seconds, so it's quite solid. Nice little buff for herself. But then what I wanted to look at here was her burst 3 skill, because once again, Haran and Scarlet have that massive AoE. She can sort of fill this role with her AoE, and provided that you do have this buff, which keep in mind, she just needs to get attacked 20 times, and it is a 20-second duration, so you should have that up a fair bit of time. She's going to get double the damage, so it is going to be a really good board wipe for all those adds, and not a bad unit to test out. Now, the one downfall in campaign, in most campaign stages, is that she's a shotgun user. In a lot of those stages, you do get a lot of mid and far range enemies, but for odd situations, if you're struggling, I definitely try taking her in. I think she can be really solid fill-in for those AoE fights where you really need it. Moving on from her, let's jump back out into here and take a look at the next one. We'll just go as we find them. Let's go. Obviously, Drake and Sugar, I'm not going to talk about. Shotgun Team, everyone knows about. I think everyone knows pretty well that Shotgun Team is good. Drake and Sugar, very fantastic units. Next one I want to look at is going to be Alice. Now, Alice is an interesting one to me. I think she's just an all-round fantastic unit. In PB2, she was like the top DPS. Then things changed and she became not so much. But I still think she's a fantastic DPS unit with some good support. So, for charge teams. So, if you end up finding yourself in a charge team, or if the game releases new characters that are charge characters, whether it be rocket launchers or snipers, and they become meta characters, this is just going to be a buff to her. So basically, if we get a new game unit in the game who's just like a top tier unit and they use a rocket launcher or a sniper rifle, that's instantly going to buff units that buff those units. So activates when entering full burst. I love activates when entering full burst passives. They're fantastic. Affects 2 allies with the highest attack. You get charge speed up and charge damage up, which is nice. Then we've got this one. When she's above 80% health, she gains continuous pierce, and when she's below 80% health, she's always going to get lifesteal, essentially, which is solid to keep her up there. One for sustain, because she's going to be one of the squishier units in your team, but also just good so you don't have to worry about getting other healers in the team. If she's squishy and stuff like that, you can get away with more, essentially. But then we have this burst skill. Affects self. Charge speed up 80% for 10 seconds and attack up 55% for 10 seconds. Now, this is quite a solid effect because normally, like, I'd expect an effect like this to be a 5-second duration. It's a really strong effect. Now, obviously, when we look at campaign, Scarlet Haran meta, they got the big AoEs. Now, this is going to be much better against single target fights than what those two can provide. However, it is also not too bad for like maybe 4 or 5 enemies because she can quickly pick them off, just one-shot them instant, because she's going to be doing that much damage. Plus, she'll have her charge speed further increased because she's entering full bursts doing this, and the charge damage up. So she's just going to be able to like quickly pick off a few enemies. So unless it's a full board of enemies, she's actually going to really excel at this. And I just think throughout the game, I think we'll see more usage of Alice because I just think she's a fantastic unit all around and a great main DPS depending on the situation. She's just not as splashably good as the aforementioned Haran and Scarlet. So let's jump into the next one that I want to take a look at. And while we're on the sniper train, let's jump into Maxwell. Now, I don't rate Maxwell as highly as Alice, but I think Maxwell's one of those ones that becomes a fantastic third burst 3 support unit in charge comps. So when we look at this one, activates when entering full burst, affects 2 allies. Very similar to what Alice has, but this one's actually, in my opinion, a better buff. So she works better as a support. However, I don't like her as much as one of your main 2 burst 3 DPS. So we get charge speed up 4.48. That's not much, but we do get attack up 43% for 10 seconds. That is a solid buff for your 2 main damage dealers. So if there's 2 other charge units that are complete meta, say maybe you're running like Haran and Alice, and they're your main 2 DPS, and then you run her as a support, not too bad. Or scratch out Haran, and if we get a future unit that's an amazing charge unit, it'll be the same sort of thing. So activates when this ability I don't like at all. You need 5 enemies. See, this makes me think PvP when it says excluding Nikke's. It's like the only reason you would have that clause is if you didn't want this to activate in PvP. But that is a side topic. I don't like this. It's crit as well, which crit isn't that great in the game at the moment. So a bit of a nothing ability. You'd basically be using her as a supportive burst 3. She doesn't quite fill that role of your main damage, but she's not too bad. This one, very similar to Snow White. Just like Snow White, I'm not a massive fan of the ability. Yes, sometimes it works really well. Yes, if you use the bug where you can get multiple shots, it's great. But in general, I'm not a massive fan of these single shot change weapon abilities. But in general, like I said, I think she's going to be great in charge teams. If there happens to be new units that come out that are really strong charge units, she provides great support for them. That one's not so much a one to use right now, but if you are using a bunch of charge units, definitely an option that you can try out. So moving on from her, the next one that I wanted to look at is, where is she? This one, Epinel. Now, Epinel has the big downfall of being an SMG attacker, but still she's quite solid. Now, she sort of fills a Haran type role in that activates when killing an enemy affects self. She gets the attack buff, which stacks up to 5 times, lasts 15 seconds. This is very similar to what Haran has. Obviously, Haran is a sniper. This is an SMG, so not as optimal on the weapon. And then we have this. Activates when the last bullet hits the target, affects self. Once again, this is crit rate and crit damage, which aren't so great in the game, but this does have a solid synergy with Privity, who most people are going to be using, so it's not too bad. But the reason I wanted to touch on her is because basically she has a really nice like AoE damage, so she's going to be really good for those ad heavy campaign stages. Very similar to Haran, like I said, except at a different range, because she's got the nice attack buff, which stacks when you kill enemies, and then she's going to have a massive AoE, because once you're fully stacked on this, you'll also have the attack buff completely stacked, meaning your attack's going to be up, and then you're going to deal double damage on top of that. So I think she's one of those really good ones for heavy AoE fights in campaign, tower, and all that stuff, but she's definitely going to be not so good in bosses because she won't get the attack buff. This isn't really effective, and you don't need the AoE. So bosses, just nowhere, but in general, like, she's one, I feel like she's a unit that no one ever says anything about, and if you have her in your box and you're like struggling for AoE fights, definitely one I would just chuck into your synchro device, give her some gear, and see if she can help you get through some AoE stages if that's where you're struggling. A lot of AoE stages become DPS checks, and if you don't have AoE wipes to clear all the ads, then you just don't get the timer. So she would be a fantastic one for it. And that pretty much covers it for the units that I think are heavily slept on. Like I said earlier, Guillotine, I feel like a lot of people use her if they have her. Brid's more single target, not really trying to replace that role of the Haran or Scarlet. Vesti's bugged out, does no damage. Selene is, well, Selene. Helm, we all know she's great supportive unit that she does. Julia's just not having a great time. My girl Julia, I still love Julia, and once they fix crit, dude, she's going to be amazing. But at the moment, like, she can be okay. She has the AoE. It's just that crit damage is just, it's just not effective at the moment, unfortunately. Crow's a tank, which is weird. Drake and Sugar, great shotgun combo. Eula, I feel like everyone knows by now that Eula is just a great unit. She's got that massive attack buff that you can time with your burst skills, plus she has a full board AoE as well to help wipe things as well. And then Snow White's just a good general AR user. Like I said, her ult is it's really good when it works and really bad when it's not the right situation. So that's pretty much Snow White, and that pretty much rounds up the burst 3s. But like I said, if you don't have Harana Scarlet, you know, hopefully you can find something in your kit to sort of fill in those holes that you're trying to work towards and keep progressing. But anyway, guys, that is going to be it for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Cheers.